Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to challenge something pretty basic.
Okay.
The idea that reading is like the way to learn.
Hmm.
What if I told you that listening is actually
Oh, wow.
the real OG of knowledge?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
So to get into all this,
Yeah.
we've got a couple sources for this deep dive.
Okay.
The first one is an article called
Okay.
The Unsung Symphony. 10 reasons we should listen before we read.
Wow.
I mean, just that title alone is kind of
It is.
makes you think, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And then for our second one, we have
Right.
an excerpt from an article from the Teaching English website. And this one's called Pre-Listening Activities.
Okay.
Because we're going to be kind of looking at like the why and the how
Yeah.
of prioritizing listening.
I like it.
But before we get into all that,
Yeah.
let me just throw this out there.
Okay.
Did you know that listening might actually make you a better reader
Really?
in the long run? That's interesting.
Yeah, it sounds kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But stick with us on this one.
Okay.
All right.
So let's start with the big picture.
Okay.
Before we had written language, humans relied on listening to survive.
Yeah.
Like, picture our ancestors huddled around a fire
Oh, yeah.
and like a storyteller's just going on and
Oh,
on.
I love that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like I can hear the crackling of the fire.
Yeah.
That's more than just ambiance, though.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's something primal about how we learn through sound.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
So our brains are actually hardwired to detect patterns in sound. Like, we're naturally drawn to the rhythm and intonation of a voice.
okay.
And there's even research showing that when we listen, our brains don't just process the words,
Really?
but also the emotional cues, the pauses, the inflections,
Oh, wow.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it creates a much richer understanding than just reading text on a page.
And that makes total sense.
Right. I know for me, like a really dry textbook just doesn't do it for me
Yeah.
compared to
I
a really passionate lecture.
Yeah,
That's
for
tough.
sure.
Yeah.
And think about how much more information is conveyed beyond just the actual words themselves.
Right.
Like, let's say someone tells you, that's interesting.
Why?
Like, the tone could make it genuine or skeptical or sarcastic.
Yeah.
Completely changes the meaning.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Tone of voice adds a whole nother
It does.
layer to it you just don't get from the text.
Right. Like, hearing a sincere apology
Yeah,
hits way harder than just reading one, wouldn't you say?
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So listening lets us experience emotions along with the information, which makes it more impactful and memorable.
Okay.
And be on the individual level.
Yeah.
Prioritizing listening actually makes knowledge more inclusive.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So for centuries, oral traditions preserved knowledge
Right.
without needing literacy at all. Stories, histories, even practical skills,
Wow.
all passed down through listening.
Yeah.
And in our modern world, think about podcasts and audiobooks.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Providing access to information for people who struggle with reading, have visual impairments,
Okay.
or simply prefer to learn orally.
Yeah, it's like opening up a whole new world of learning.
It is.
Yeah, for people who might otherwise be excluded.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
And even for those who are comfortable reading,
Yeah.
listening offers a break from visual strain.
Right.
It lets us engage with information in a different way, which can be refreshing and stimulating.
I know. I personally like to listen to podcasts while I walk or cook. It's like multitasking for the mind.
Totally.
But here's something I'm curious about.
Okay.
We've all experienced zoning out while reading, right?
Right.
Does listening combat that?
It does.
Really?
It does, because listening unfolds in real time. It demands more active cognitive processing. We have to focus on the speaker's words to keep up,
Okay.
which can actually improve comprehension and memory retention.
Interesting. So it's not just about being present in the moment.
Right.
It's about,
It's like making our brains work harder
yeah,
in a good way.
in a good way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And speaking of being present,
Okay.
have you ever considered the power of learning directly from a source?
Ooh.
Like an expert in their field.
Yeah, I've definitely had times where I'm reading something and thinking, man, I wish I could just ask this author a question directly.
Totally.
So tell me about that.
Yeah.
What's so special about learning through listening in that context?
Well, it's about more than just getting your questions answered. You know, hearing a scientist talk about their research, their passion, the challenges they faced, it just brings the subject alive in a way a textbook never could.
I bet you're tapping into their lived experience.
Exactly. The human side of the knowledge.
Yeah, which makes it so much more engaging.
For sure. And that human element extends to dialogue and understanding different viewpoints.
Okay.
You know, in our polarized world, the ability to truly listen to perspectives we might not agree with is more crucial than ever.
Yeah, it's so easy to get stuck in our own echo chambers these days.
It is.
But yeah, I can see how listening could help bridge those divides.
It can. It's about moving beyond those surface disagreements and trying to understand like the underlying values and experiences and emotions that shape another person's viewpoint.
Okay.
One study found that individuals who practiced active listening during political discussions reported feeling more empathy and less anger towards those with opposing views.
That's amazing.
Isn't that interesting?
It really is. Yeah, it suggests that listening isn't just about absorbing information.
Yeah.
It's about fostering understanding and connection.
It is.
Even amidst differences.
Exactly. And that connection isn't limited to just serious topics or, you know, polarizing issues.
Right.
Think about the role of listening in like creative brainstorming sessions.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
I usually think of brainstorming as a very visual process. You know, like mind maps, sticky notes, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Visuals definitely have their place. Yeah. But imagine a group of people just bouncing ideas off each other, riffing on each other's thoughts, the spontaneity, the energy, the unexpected twists and turns that emerge from that kind of dynamic exchange.
Totally.
That's where true innovation happens.
You've got a point.
Right.
It's like jazz improvisation.
It is.
You need to be fully present and responsive to what the other musicians are doing to create something truly unique.
Exactly. And that same principle applies to brainstorming. When we truly listen to each other, we create a space for unexpected connections and breakthrough ideas.
That makes me think about our second source.
Yeah.
The one about pre-listening activities.
Right, right.
If listening is so crucial for learning and understanding, is there a way to actually prime our brains for it?
There absolutely is.
Really?
Educators have been using pre-listening activities for years to boost comprehension and engagement.
Interesting.
It's about setting the stage, you know, getting students curious and ready to absorb the information.
So it's like a mental warm-up before the main event.
Exactly.
Okay, give me some examples.
Okay.
What are some pre-listening activities people can try?
So one simple but effective technique is to just preview vocabulary.
Okay.
If you know the topic, you know, jot down some key terms you think you might encounter.
Oh, like that?
It's like giving your brain a head start on processing the information.
It's like when you read the blurb on the back of a book before diving in.
Exactly.
Yeah. Gives you a sense of what to expect.
Another strategy is to connect the topic to your own experiences. Ask yourself, what do I already know about this? How does it relate to my life?
Right.
This activates prior knowledge and helps you make connections, which aids in deeper understanding.
So it's about finding those personal hooks.
It is.
That make the information more relevant and memorable.
And don't underestimate the power of visuals. If there are images or diagrams related to the topic, take a look beforehand. It can help you visualize the information and make it more concrete.
This all makes me wonder,
Yeah.
with all the distractions we face these days,
Right.
are we losing the art of listening?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
You know, we're constantly bombarded with information, our attention pulled in a million different directions. Multitasking has become the norm.
Right.
And it often comes at the expense of deep, focused listening.
I'm definitely guilty of scrolling through my phone while someone's talking to me.
Right.
It's like I'm physically present but mentally checked out.
We've all been there, but the consequences go beyond just appearing rude.
Right.
When we don't truly listen, we miss out on nuances, emotional cues.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to connect on a deeper level.
It's like we're sacrificing genuine human connection for the fleeting satisfaction of checking our notifications.
Exactly. And in the long run, that can lead to misunderstandings, strained relationships, and a sense of isolation.
Wow.
So it's more important than ever to cultivate mindful listening habits.
I'm convinced. But where do we start?
Okay.
How do we become better listeners in a world designed to distract us? I mean, it feels like a tall order, right?
It does.
Like, how do you actually rewire your brain to resist the siren song of the internet?
Well, it starts with awareness.
Okay.
Like just noticing those moments when your mind starts to wander.
Uh-huh.
Or when you're half listening.
Right.
While you're already coming up with your response in your head.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
It's like catching yourself in the act.
It is.
That distraction.
Yeah.
Okay, so awareness is key, but then what?
Right.
How do we actually shift those ingrained habits?
One powerful technique is to practice what's called reflective listening.
Okay.
So instead of just passively absorbing information, try summarizing or paraphrasing what you've heard back to the speaker.
So it's like you're holding up a mirror to their words.
Exactly.
To make sure you're both on the same page.
Yeah, it not only clarifies understanding, but it also shows the speaker that you're truly engaged.
Right.
That you're making an effort to see their perspective.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
It turns listening into a more active,
It does.
collaborative process.
Yeah.
It's not just about receiving information anymore. It's about creating a shared understanding.
Yeah. And don't underestimate the power of just asking clarifying questions. If something's unclear, don't be afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
It shows that you're paying attention.
Right.
And you're genuinely interested in what the speaker has to say.
I guess sometimes we're so focused on seeming smart or knowledgeable that we forget to just be curious.
Right.
But asking questions is really how we learn and grow.
It is, absolutely. And curiosity is contagious.
Mm-hmm.
When you show genuine interest, it encourages the speaker to open up even more.
Oh, wow.
To share their thoughts and feelings in a deeper way.
This makes me wonder about those times when we're listening to someone that we just really disagree with.
Right.
Can you really practice deep listening in those situations without sacrificing your own beliefs?
That's a challenge we all face, especially in today's world.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's important to remember that listening isn't the same as agreeing.
Right.
You can hear someone's perspective, acknowledge their feelings, even try to understand their reasoning without endorsing their viewpoint.
So it's about separating the person from their ideas.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that everyone has a story, a set of experiences that shapes their worldview. Even if you disagree with their conclusions, you can still listen with empathy and respect.
That takes a lot of maturity and open-mindedness.
It does.
But I can see how it would create a space for more productive dialogue.
It does.
Even when there are those deep differences.
Absolutely. It's not about winning an argument or changing someone's mind.
Okay.
It's about building bridges of understanding, even across ideological divides.
This all makes me think back to something we talked about earlier.
Okay.
The idea that listening can actually make us better readers.
Yeah.
It still sounds a little counterintuitive to me.
I know.
How exactly does that work?
So think about it this way.
Okay.
When you're listening to someone speak, you're not just processing the words.
Right.
You're also picking up on their tone of voice, their inflections, their pauses. All those cues add layers of meaning and context.
So it's like listening is training us to read between the lines.
Oh, it is.
To pay attention to those nuances beyond the literal words.
Exactly. And that skill translates directly to reading comprehension.
Okay.
You become more attuned to the author's voice, their intention, the subtle ways they convey meaning through language.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Right.
It's like listening is giving us a secret decoder ring.
I like that.
For the written word.
Yeah. And it highlights the interconnectedness of these two skills.
Yeah.
They're not separate activities.
Right.
They complement and enrich each other.
Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I've learned so much about listening, not just as a skill, but as a way of being in the world.
Absolutely.
And to our amazing listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this journey.
Yes.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights from this.
We do.
And feel inspired to embrace the power of listening in your own lives.
Absolutely. Remember, true listening is a gift. Both to ourselves and to those around us.
Yeah.
It's a gift that fosters understanding, connection, and empathy, creating a ripple effect of positive change in the world.
Beautifully said. A huge thank you to expert speaker.
Thank you.
For guiding us through this fascinating exploration.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into all sorts of thought-provoking topics.
Yes.
Until next time, happy listening.